Hi everybody, this is a 5-color domain deck that takes advantage of that fact to let us cast the most difficult to cast spells in Standard that are also some of the most powerful. You can see up here on the top end, our big payoffs are Herd Migration, Atraxa Grand Unifier, and the Kami War. The game plan with this deck is to lay down all of our domain enablers in these tri-lands from New Capenna, use Leyline Binding and Depopulate, along with some of our early removal and maybe blocking a little bit with Armored Scrapgorger to get us through the early game into the mid-game where we can start casting Kami War and Atraxa. Herd Migration also helps us get there by having a little channel ability built into it that lets us go and pick out the missing land and gain a little bit of life in the process. Once we do get our colors in order, the best thing we can probably be doing in here is casting Atraxa. Usually fills up our hand by letting us select from all of the different card types that are in this deck. One thing I want to point out is kind of a nice bonus with Vraska here, is that if we do use the Proliferate ability on it, that also affects our sagas. So things like Fable can flip over a little bit sooner, and the Kami War can also progress through its chapters a little bit faster as well when we use her ability. So this one is kind of difficult to pilot, and you'll see me trying to figure out the mulligan situation as we kind of progress through some of these games. Definite learning curve to this deck if you want to try something like this. But anyway, let's get over and see some games with this deck on the Ranked Standard ladder. I'll be with you for some commentary, but as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. All right. Finally hit the record button on this one. Looks like we're up against what is, for now, some kind of mono-black toxicity deck. We are a little slow with all of these tap lands. Let's get Raffine's tower down. Opponent with an interesting enchantment that gives some extra toxicity to their creature, so we are climbing up there in poison counters for sure. But we're up to 2 mana. We can take care of this with a Leyline Binding. You can do it at instant speed because it's got flash. A little 2-for-1 if they can't protect it. It's not a destroy effect, it's an exile. So if they've got the various rebirth effects that are in Standard right now, not going to help them. Alright, well we're up to 3 mana right now. Let's get down our Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Make a little Goblin Shaman. Opponent's going to hit us with a Vraska's Fall, bringing us to 7 poison counters already. These slow lands making us take a bunch of poison counters. All right, we can get rid of this. Well, let's get rid of the swamp. Yeah, because the Proving Ground can give us forests, which we don't have amongst our lands. All right, so Proving Ground down. Fable number 2. We'll see if this shaman lives to tell the tale, and then we are up to full domain, so this binding is going to be super cheap. Okay, we are up to 8 poison counters thanks to another Vraska's Fall. But opponent not doing anything on 4 lands. So we're going to get Fable flipped over here. As for the discard, I'm not sure. I kind of think we want to keep everything. This might allow us to... Well, not quite there. We're almost to casting Atraxa and our Herd Migration too, so we can really sort of turn the corner if we just get 1 more land. Opponent with a Vraska Betrayal's Sting. See what they decide to do with that. They are going to draw and proliferate. And we are up to 9 poison counters. Let's bind Vraska there. Don't think we had a window to get her before she did that ability. All right. This Eiganjo as a land is going to take us to 7. We'll get in with one of our Fables, and as much as I want to play Atraxa, Herd Migration is actually going to give us more power on board. We're at the full 5 domain, so that's 15, which is enough to finish our opponent. The life gain from Atraxa would be nice, but we can't wait around. All right, opponent just with a Jawbone Duelist as we draw a Scrapgorger. Well, I think with our 2 flipped Fables, this is probably going to be enough. If they block the biggest cow or beast or whatever that is, this should still be enough. All right, we got there. Good game. All right, let's try some more Domain here. Oh, and it's this deck. Venerated Rot Priest from our opponent. So we start off with our slow tri-lands. Part of the learning curve of this deck is knowing when to hold your untapped lands, like trying to figure out what is the most important turn for doing something right on time, as opposed to getting your tap lands out. You're kind of planning ahead. Opponent's going to try to play Audacity on the Rot Priest. Let's see. Put into a graveyard, draw a card. Let's Binding. That doesn't trigger the Rot Priest since it's an ability once it's on the board. We'll get a Fable down with this window I was just talking about. Taking care of that Rot Priest, it's less important for us to have 4 mana on time to depopulate. Kind of want to get this Fable going so we can start picking up some... Ooh, there's something to do. We've got Atraxa. Let's discard. I think this Garden and this Proving Ground. Proving Ground should give us full domain. We're going to attack with this Shaman. They can't block with Skrelv, and we'll get the second Fable down. So these Shaman could enable us to get right into the Kami War here if we want to next turn, or maybe go straight into Atraxa. Kind of got to see what the opponent's up to. All right, so they Homestead Courage Skrelv, but they don't attack. And Skrelv can't block, so I'm not sure what's going on here. Okay, well, apparently they've seen enough. Good game. All right, we are back here for another one. Vraska, Domain, kind of control-y. We've got Atraxa to fill the hand back up. We've actually drawn one of our Armored Scrapgorgers this time. Very annoying card to play against, but haven't had much opportunity to use it myself. As part of its mana activation, it pulls something out of the, well, pretty much any graveyard, and exiles it. Opponent with Glissa. I kind of think we want to Abrade Glissa. Kind of a solid stat line on that card. It's been really good for all the opponents I see playing it. The ability to draw a card or destroy just any enchantment, usually pretty good against a lot of the decks that I play. All right, good. We get a Binding. Let's use this Herd Migration, since we haven't drawn any more lands, to keep working on our domain. Let's see. What do we need? I think Plains. Let's see. Yeah, I think it's Plains. We have more double white cards in here. I was trying to remember what's in the deck. So including the Wandering Emperor and Depopulate should be the other one. White, the most important thing to have 2 of in the first few turns. Unfortunately, that meant we couldn't Scrapgorger last turn, but luckily we've got mana open for this Go for the Throat on Sheoldred. Well, there's some more white. I'm kind of wishing we pulled something else out of there. Let's get the Scrapgorger going. That should help us fix some of our mana issues. We need 4 different colors for Atraxa and all 5 for the Kami War. Opponent going to go ahead and just Invoke Despair us. We will lose our Scrapgorger color fixing, and opponent will draw 2. But good for us, we draw another one. Opponent showing some Golgari green and black kind of control cards here. Another Invoke Despair. Down goes the Scrapgorger. Opponent's going to draw 2 more. And we get a Vraska. We could play the completed, discounted version of Vraska here, but I think we're going to keep open the Leyline and the Wandering Emperor. Alright, opponent with an Armored Scrapgorger of their own, and then a Llanowar Lone Speaker. So clearly interested in producing early mana. And then they follow that up with Liliana of the Veil. We've got nothing to sacrifice, but it looks like they're going to skip over the discard ability, and we're going to take this opportunity to Leyline Binding Liliana. If we do get up to Atraxa levels, it's going to be our one threat on the board, and we don't want to make that easy to get rid of. Just passing it on back here, keeping up the Wandering Emperor. Pretty flexible. Should help us do a couple of things if we need it. They're going to pull out our Herd Migration from the graveyard, but this is not Arcane Bombardment. We are not pulling that back up out of there anytime soon. And opponent with Invoke Despair, number 3, going to take care of the Leyline Binding that was keeping Liliana of the Veil under wraps. Yep, that is 3 despairs from the opponent for now. Now they decide to make everybody discard something.
We all have things we'd rather forget.
It might be Vraska for me here. Like, we're so close to our multicolored goodness. See what else they do. All right, let's get the Wanderer down. Maybe we can start pressuring this Lily, but with some samurai tokens.
I am the Emperor of Kamigawa, and I will protect my
All right, they're going to make a sack. We'll make a token anyway. Sheoldred's Edict, great at taking care of my planeswalkers in particular. But this means we can't make our token big enough to actually be a threat to Liliana. However, we've got the Kami War online, so let's get that going. We will exile something of our opponents. That thing will be Liliana.
It's no fun when they hit back.
Going to hold this forest for now in case they want to make us discard again. Then we can just pitch the forest and hope to draw into our final 7th land for this Atraxa we've been holding on to. That is going to be key to winning this, as we are out of gas if we lose Atraxa here. Opponent exiles our Vraska from the graveyard. And then follows up with a Phyrexian Obliterator. Alright, well, Chapter 2 means we can return that to our opponent's hand and buy us a little more time. Make him discard something. Opponent having a good think about it. Another Sheoldred's Edict. Glad to see that go. Let's refill here with Atraxa. Alright, so we get to pick one of each type. Let's get a sorcery. Let's get another Vraska. Sure, I guess Raffine's Tower will be fine. We'll take Kami War as our enchantment. Another Atraxa as our creature, and then Bankbuster as our artifact. Just a casual draw 6. Get us back in this game. Gix's Command. So they will get back Sheoldred and Glissa, make us sacrifice Atraxa. Since it is the highest cost thing we have on board, that's fine. We've got another one in hand. We have a backup Kami War. Should be able to take care of Sheoldred here, as she hits the board once again. Alright, opponent just going to pass through combat there. We'll draw. We get Bankbuster number 2 and go down to 9 from Sheoldred. Our Kami War is going to flip, but it still can't attack quite yet. We could Atraxa again, but we've got a full hand of cards. Let's do the Kami War and see if we can't get rid of Sheoldred. Sheoldred, a great way to break through a stalemate. Forces us to have the answer for it. Meanwhile, our opponent can just sit back and collect their return on investment all of those draw triggers. Opponent casts a cut down on our samurai token and just passes it on back. So Kami War number 2, let's bounce this Loam Speaker. We're a little low, and I don't want them attacking with any surprise lands out of nowhere. And it looks like they just discard the Loam Speaker. All right, let's try attacking and see if Kagachi can net us anything out of the graveyard. Opponent does get to choose, so I imagine we'll see a Scrapgorger coming back to our hand. And then we'll see what kind of bonus we get. Nope, they give us an Abrade. Okay, that's got more uses for me than Scrapgorger right now. Brings Kagachi to 8 power, so we'll take our opponent down to 11. We'll use this kindly gifted Abrade our opponent gave us on the Scrapgorger. On its way out the door, looks like it's going to exile the Wandering Emperor from our graveyard. And let's see here. Can we do a full price Vraska? Let's just get some Bankbusters down. We might need to just squeeze in just a little bit of damage next turn, and that should help us do it. Our second Kami War is going to flip over as well, so even if we don't draw another creature or want to play our Atraxa, we can crew it up with that. Opponent's going to play their Phyrexian Obliterator and another Glissa. Well, that could be the first Glissa, I don't remember at this point. Second Kami War flips over. They're not legendary, so we can have 2 Kagachis on the board at the same time. Let's get down our Yavimaya Coast. And let's see. Let's go to combat. I don't think there's any way we can get rid of both of these blockers or have enough power to even finish our opponent off at this point. Yep, there's the Scrapgorger, so Kagachi's going to head up to 8, get our opponent down to 3. Probably going to have to Kami War this Phyrexian Obliterator here. All right. That's a lot of Kami War to get through. Good game. All right. Mulligan decisions. I think we can keep this. It's a little risky since we only have Scrapgorger. Luckily, Spara's headquarters can produce green, so we can at least play that. Otherwise, we're going to have to probably lean on these Leyline Bindings for a little while as we hopefully pick up a few more tri-lands. Opponent looks to be on red and white. What flavor are we looking at today? Rabbit Battery and Eater of Virtue. So it's probably some kind of equipment-focused deck. We're going to play our Otawara and get Armored Scrapgorger down. Hopefully this sticks around, otherwise we got a little bit of an expensive hand going here. Opponent with a Selfless Samurai. Let's see. It's the no mana left to equip it with anything. We pick up a Swamp. Good for our domain numbers. Let's get Bankbuster going. We've got 2 mana left over if we use our Scrapgorger to play Leyline Binding on anything. And I love to wait until they pay the activation costs on equipment or, try to put an aura on something if we've got instant speed removal like this. All right, so they are going to go for the reconfigure. Let's go ahead and do it now. They'll still get to attack with the battery, but it's 1 damage. I mean, unless they want to put the Eater onto the Rabbit, which they could very well do. All right. So we're going to take 3 from this Rabbit, but now we can hit the rabbit with a binding if we want to. I was hoping to depopulate on a fuller board. 4 mana means we need to draw with Bankbuster. Gotta keep hitting these lands in a deck like this. Just a Fable. So we can go ahead and binding now, or second Bankbuster, but I think we'll just keep the binding up. See if we can get him to play an equipment. End of our turn, looks like they're gonna hit us with a play with fire, scry a little bit. Alright, opponent up to 4 lands now. Selfless Samurai. The battery is not a warrior or a samurai, though. So they will not get the lifelinky bonus. Let's do Leyline Binding now. And we will eat a samurai out of the opponent's graveyard there. Once we get to 3, the Scrapgorger will be nice and buff. Might be able to get in with some damage, or at least do some blocks while we wait for the rest of our mana to show up. Oh, they're going to put the Eater right back on the Samurai that's left over. Well, lucky for us, we pick up a Jetmir's Garden, and we can play this Fable using the Gorger. So let's do that. Exile that play with fire, and we'll pick up a Goblin Shaman. Eater doesn't really have any abilities under it now, so... Oh, okay. Well, if they put the battery on the Samurai, they can make it just big enough to dodge our Goblin. And we don't have enough to crew up Bankbuster just yet, so... Looks like we're going to be taking 5 from this concoction, unless we want to Leyline Binding it. We'll leave them with just the battery, but they should be able to put the Eater of Virtue back on the rabbit. Alright. But no attacks. Alright. Choices. Do we discard with the Fable? I think we can get rid of Bankbuster number 2, but I want to keep the rest of this. We've got a Yavimaya Coast, so we're slowly getting up towards Atraxa levels. Let's send in the Shaman, since they were so reluctant to attack. Oh, they decide to block now. Okay. Alright, so that's going to make the Eater pick up Haste as an ability. So we're going to have to watch for that. But with that treasure, we can play Atraxa. So I think we've got a good window as our opponent's down to just 1 card. Alright, Atraxa ability goes off. Let's get Herd Migration, Wandering Emperor, Forest. Take a go for the throat, Kami War, and another Scrapgorger. Beautiful. And we'll just discard Scrapgorger. Sorry, buddy. Your buffer cousin is already on the board. Alright, opponent's sitting at 1 card. I have legitimately never seen that card before. But they are going to crew it up and give it haste and run it straight into Atraxa. All right. Are we conceding? Is that what that is? Opponent making some choices about if they're going to exile. Not sure it matters too much. Yep. Good game. Alrighty. We cannot keep that basic land hand in a deck like this, but this one's got enough triomes for us to get started. So let's lead off with Jetmir's Garden. More games I play with this deck, the better I'm getting at mulligan decisions. Now, I'm not a great player, mind you, but I can be taught. Opponent looks to be on mono red. Going to start us off with a Kumano Faces Kakazan. We're going to play Otawara so that we can get our Armored Scrapgorger down right on time. If we get an untapped land, we will be ready for the Wandering Emperor on our turn. But we do not. It's another Triome. So we're going to go ahead and get Bankbuster down instead. And just leave up Scrapgorger as a potential blocker. Though I kind of don't want to expose him to too much danger. He's my ticket to the Wanderer. Alright, opponent just going to burn a Play with Fire to our face. Looking for that scry. They will put one on the bottom. Kumano Chapter 3 is going to flip over. I think we can't really do anything about that. That is fine. Opponent attacks for 2. We'll just let that go. We're still at 17. Not the most threatening start from a mono red deck. Maybe that's why they were scrying with the Play with Fire earlier. Alright, we draw Atraxa, but she's a little ways off. But we are ready for the Wanderer now. So let's pass it on over to our opponent. See what they want to do this turn, and maybe we can exile something, gain a little bit of life. Otherwise, we are off to Samurai Town, gonna make some tokens. Opponent hits us in the face with yet another Play with Fire, putting the top card to the bottom. And decides not to get in with Kumano. Let's draw with our Bankbuster. We get a nice land off the top. Karplusan Forest from us. Happy to just pass it on back to this red deck. Not feeling too much rush. Kumano comes in. Let's just go ahead and exile that. Gain a little bit of life back. I suppose we could have tried to block, but life's always good against your red opponents. And we'll draw with Bankbuster 2 at the end of their turn, exiling a Play with Fire. Ooh. We pick up a Kami War, but the opponent is left nearly boardless with just a pair of mountains. So let's put a counter on the old Scrapgorger. We will draw a card with Bankbuster here. Another Scrapgorger. They make great blockers for your aggressive opponents, I will say that. And we've got up a Go for the Throat if the opponent plays something threatening here. Otherwise, I'm trying to rush towards this Atraxa as I get a feeling... This is a white deck? All right. Well, they may be able to deal with it, but I kind of get the feeling they're going to scoop if we can show them an Atraxa. So let's see what we can do to make that happen. Then again, Kami War. All right, Scrapgorger. Let's get rid of their last card. We need to get rid of this wedding announcement. So the white, yeah, they could have a little something. Better to play it just like a little bit cautious. We'll crew up our Bankbuster. Send that in. Keeping up 2 mana for Go for the Throat and Abrade. And we will make a token with the Wandering Emperor.
Keep watch for intruders.
It's the cautious control player side of me coming out there. Opponent with a Hopeful Initiate and a Bankbuster. Let's take this opportunity to Abrade the Bankbuster, keep them from drawing. Cement the advantage we've got. We pick up a Herd Migration. Kami War will bounce the token. Then that also makes them discard a card here. They discard Geist Flame Reservoir. Oh no, was this a bombardment deck? I feel kind of bad. We'll put a token on our Samurai. Get in with the Samurai and the crewed up Bankbuster. Coming at the opponent for 7. And we'll follow that up with Atraxa. We'll get rid of the Bankbuster out of their graveyard, as well as that Geist Flame Reservoir. I know how good that card can be. All right, we'll pull up a Herd Migration, a Vraska, Yavimaya Coast here, another Abrade, and another backup copy of the Kami War. Can never have too many of those. And discard this Bankbuster, that is fine. Opponent at 9, gonna Brutal Cathar. That comes down. Takes out Atraxa. But opponent sees the writing on the wall and scoops anyway. Good game.